have everybody
Here,
go.
I'm on a little like side here, break, or you can just set it right here.
I'll set it there. I probably don't need any more go-tos.
Try a headset. Hey.
How you doing?
Stop being so opposed to change.
No, it's okay. You look on our phone, we can get you one.
Not all that.
Yeah.
Where you
I
live?
lost my.
I live in East Bethel, just south of I-65
All right, gang.
We do have a couple more people coming in, so I apologize if you're getting started and there's.
Yeah, we'll make fun of them for being.
Okay, good.
All right.
I will never make fun of anyone.
So welcome, everyone. For those of you guys who I haven't met, my name is Perry Hurth. I was a team leader here at this market center from 2013 to the end of 2019. Feels like a lifetime ago, literally. We're glad you're here. This is Babette. I don't think we've ever actually met. I've seen you at Bold and all the various Keller Williams things over the years. First time we ever talked was like 40 minutes ago on the phone. So this is, it's unscripted in the sense that we've never had a conversation. I gave her some prep questions, which we may or may not dive into, but for you guys who are online, thank you for being here. So this is your hour, meaning we want you to walk away from this hour with at least 1 to 2 actionable things that you can implement by the end of the week. Okay, and I know I didn't say that to you, but that's kind of the spirit of this thing. I started doing these a couple years ago because when I went back to selling after being a team leader, and it was right during COVID, so that didn't help, but there was no trainings on our calendar that I was like, holy smokes, I need to block my calendar to be at. So we've been doing these consistently now for a couple of years. I realize we haven't done them here, which is kind of cool to be here, but I would encourage you to tune in every single month as we do these. So what I also know is you guys could have chosen to be anywhere in the world right now, and you're here with us. So I want this to be as impactful as possible for you. So please make sure you ask questions and get as much out of this as you can. Okay? Cool. All right. Thanks, Ashley, for all your help.
You're welcome.
All right. So tell us about you.
Well, I've been in the business for about 19 years. And I actually started as a team leader.
Oh, really?
I don't think you know that.
I don't think I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I was green and I'd never practiced real estate and they sort of took a shot at, bringing me on board and
You're the Coon Rapids team leader?
no.
Oh, okay.
It's a really hard job. It's a really hard. And it really wasn't, at the end of the day, it wasn't my cup of tea. But great people. It was a great experience. And then I said, no, you know what I want to do is sell. So then I came to the Coon Rapids Market Center. And it was not long after that Rick Bandimere asked me if I wanted to be on his team. He was really just in the process of starting to build a team and that thought process. And so he wanted to know if I wanted to be a buyer specialist. And I said, sure.
What year was that? Just to give people a perspective.
2004, I think.
2004.
Yeah, I was 11. So 2004. And then I did that for quite some time. Then when the market started to change a little bit, right? Rick had listed bank-owned REOs in the past. And so he started getting bank-owned assignments from Countrywide at that point. And I learned the ropes of that and I became REO listing specialist. So that's what I did is I was the person who went, ting, 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 ting. Hi, I'm Babette. I'm from Keller Williams. And Countrywide has told me this house would be empty. I'm wondering what you can tell me about that. Since you're still here, right? And I did arrange evictions and I did clean outs and I would deal with the mold, deal with the tenants, deal with all that stuff. And it was really, really great experience because then when I made the decision to go back into buyers, I knew how all that worked behind the scenes. So there were agents who were avoiding bank-owned properties because they just didn't really want to deal with it or they didn't understand how it worked. For me, I would call up the REO agent and I would, or email them, because a lot of them wouldn't return their phone calls at the time, right? I always return phone calls. I'm a firm believer in communication between agents. It benefits. If you're the listing agent, it benefits your seller. I don't care. If it's your buyer, it helps you be their best advocate for sure. But it gave me that insight that I needed to be able to know, here's what the bank's gonna say, right? Like, this is what they're gonna look at, and I know that they have a procedure and they must follow the procedure. This is not a home they've owned and raised their kids in. They don't care who you are. So here's how our offer needs to be, and here's what kind of leverage we have, and this is how we need to get it in there to get it accepted. So that was a good learning experience. I went back to buyers. And then the market changed again. And I went and became a listing specialist. And about 8 years ago, Rick said, you know, I have other businesses with partners and I'm not sure why I'm not doing this, why I'm doing this on my own. And he asked me to be his business partner. So we co-own the team and have for several years now.
Okay.
And I'm the listing specialist on the team at this point.
And what's the makeup of the team? How many people, admin, what's that look like?
So we're 10 right now. And we just brought on another salesperson in that makeup. So Rick has recently sort of stepped out of day-to-day production, right? So operating more, I would characterize him as an OP of our team, right? So kind of in that similar role to what you'd have in a market center, identifying business opportunities, having more of a global view of the business and the team and P&L and all that kind of stuff. And then we have.
So you said 10 people, is that all licensed or is that including admin support?
Including admin support, but all of our admin are licensed as well.
And what's the makeup of like, you know, support versus sales? Even though
So,
they're all licensed.
yep, so support, we have transaction management.
Okay.
We have a director of ops who also oversees our separate marketing company. So we outsource and yet we have that company. And then we have listing manager. I would characterize her as listing manager, project manager, handler. Okay, because I'm in the parking lot and I'm trying to get out of the car and she's saying, somebody tagged us on Facebook and you need to respond and don't forget to take a picture. Could somebody take a picture and send it to me so I don't get in trouble? Like, could somebody just take a picture of it?
Oh, yeah, actually Rick said take a few pictures.
So she manages and she handles and she provides she provides a little bit of extra accountability in the way of, hey, don't forget this. Hey, remember you're gonna do this. You know, who is sent out to their 100 people this, right?
Yeah.
So that's really, that's the bulk of our administrative operations support. And then there are 4 of us full-time sales people.
Got it. Well, and to give you guys perspective, and again, you guys took the time to be here. That's so exciting. You guys, I'm guessing you know your numbers, but in 2022 team and group rankings, North Central region, these guys did 31.595 million in sales volume, $831,877 in gross commissions for 90.4 units, according to our stats.
Give or take, right? Yeah.
Give or take.
Take.
So just to put that into perspective, these guys would be the second biggest team in this market center if they were here to give you perspective. So you're without question learning from one of the very best in our area.
And our goals are bigger than that. So,
Your goals are bigger this year?
oh yes, they're, yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into that. How are you gonna get there?
Well, we've got a lot of things moving all at the same time. And so the thing that's always been interesting to me about this business is, you know, when you first start out, you think, well, if I could just, you know, if I could just be where they are, all things would be way easier. They're not, they're just different. They're just different. You deal with, you know, You deal with, when do you hire? Are you maximizing your talent? Do you have the right talent? You know, how do you coach people if they don't want it as much as you want them to want it, right? Like, there's all kinds of those sort of nuances that pop up, and those are things you don't think about, right? And then we look at some of these big dogs, you know, at mega camp, and we say, oh, we're there, but we know they have their own issues too. And some of them, as we've seen over the last few years, some of those names that used to be on the stage are no longer on the stage, not because they're not big, but because they don't have profit. And that, at the end of the day, is what makes it, right? So if you're a single agent, you might be in a better profit position than a mega team. And so it's really all what's a fit. And I love that about the business. You know, so yes, our goals do include our team members that have been with us for a significant amount of time. You think about being on a team as a buyer specialist or a team member, you know, we hear people turning over in a couple of years on average, I think. And ours have been with us we've got a couple of people who are about 5 years on the team. So they very, very intimately know the systems, the working, the mission, vision, values of the team, right? And so now they're taking listings, which hadn't been in our model before. But the more listings, the more buyers, more GCI.
So let's dive into that for a second, because I know we have some teams here, we have some online. What would you say the value proposition of the team is, and or your secret to longevity of them being on the team that long?
Well, I'm going to speak a little bit to my own longevity, right?
Mhm.
Because one could say that, you know, I just never left. So here I am, right? But from the very beginning, I was aware that my net income was going to be knew that I didn't have the expenses. I didn't have the burden of certain lead generation activities, expenses, right? I knew that. So my job was to get specialized and to be really, really good at buyers, right? And I've been with Keller Williams my entire career, and I still have no idea what a green sheet looks like. I don't know, and I don't ever want to know, and I don't need to know. Because if I turn in a file, and if I were to try and go mess with that green sheet, I should just hand you $20. Because that's not my specialty, and I'm not any good at it. You know, I am good at converting an appointment. I am good at converting to an appointment on the phone with someone, right? And I love negotiation, so home skills on that. And that's my role in the team. That's where I make the team money. So that's a big thing. The people who really want to do that part of it, the huge value proposition is they plug in, for example, they plug in buyer appointment on Thursday. Here's their information, right? And maybe that comes from our ISA. We do have an ISA, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention her. She's pretty magical. And so it'll be plugged in. Here's the name, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and they'll both be there, and the appointment's at the office, and all the stuff goes into just a Google Sheet that everybody has bookmarked on their computer or their phone. And they plug all of that in, and they go, listing packet, please. And then there's an email that goes out. There's a reminder to the client with a little bit more about us. There's an event that gets put on the calendar for both the agent and the buyer that's coming in, or it's a seller. And then the buyer packet gets delivered electronically or physically to the agent. However it is. And it all gets added into our database and flagged with the appropriate follow-up game plan, smart plan, whatever you want to call it, right? Depending on what you use. So all of that, like if you are running to a showing and trying to make X amount of calls in a day and trying to maybe make a social media post, and you're trying to do all these things that you would do if you're, let's say, a buyer's specialist on a team, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So that is a convenience thing. The other thing is we want our people that come into our world we want them to be able to have what they want within our world. Does that mean, do they have another business that might be complementary to ours, right? The marketing company is a good example. So Marketing by Maddie was started by our director of ops, Maddie. And we helped to get that started. And that's now a really great, growing, profitable business for her. And that's exciting.
And what is it,
Social media management mostly,
Okay.
right? But also some other types of marketing as well. And real estate, and what they found their other niche has been is like health coaching and wellness services. And there's a big, because that's a very big social media presence for
Mhm.
those. And also those folks get direct business from their social media. So the power of having really good social media management is important for that. So that's just kind of an example, like that was an opportunity that was able to come out of her relationship with us and us being supportive of that.
and is she taking on more clients? Okay, and if we wanted more information, where would we go?
So Marketing by Maddie is on Instagram and on Facebook,
MADDIE?
MADIE.
Got it. There you go.
Marketing by Maddie, yep.
Okay.
You can see a little bit about them there. They do all of ours, of course, at Bandimere team. And everything from ads to social media posting to event marketing to all that kind of stuff. But that's just an example, I guess, is that we really just want to be supportive. And we want people who want to grow. Like you want people, if you're building a team, my opinion is that you want people who don't need to be on your team. They want to be on the team. They see the opportunity, they see the value, they understand that it will be a stepping stone for them to succeed. Because if they need to be on your team, then it's a lopsided relationship.
At the end of the day, your team members' vision, growth, and goals needs to fit within your organization. And the second it doesn't, they're gonna leave you.
Yeah, and there's a disconnect sometimes. We see this, I've seen this with lots of different teams. When you have somebody who is a team member and they succeed at a very high level, and then they go, I'm pretty good at this and I'm gonna leave and go do this somewhere else or on my own or what have you. But the one thing that they have not realized is that origination is what made them successful. Lead origination, and where did that come from? And if it came largely from the team, how are they going to replace it? That's their biggest thing. They might be an excellent customer care, agent servicing the client. They might be phenomenal at that, but can they originate leads? And that's it. I mean, not to break it down to really basic stuff, but I'm a kind of black and white person. Without origination, you have no money. And without a P&L, you have no business. So you need to originate the leads, and then you need to know how you're keeping and spending your money appropriately to run a successful business to generate profit.
So let's dive into lead generation levers. So I'm gonna ask you, what are the lead generation levers of the team? And I want you to position it as, and again, we have mega teams in the room, we have mega teams online, we have new people online. I want you to position it in a manner that, hey, here's what we do, and if you're not doing this, please consider this.
Okay.
Yeah, so what are our levers?
So a large portion of our business comes from our database.
Okay.
Past clients, referrals, vendor referrals. So it's very relational. And we're pretty heavy on that, right? That's pretty important to us. We don't buy leads. Years ago, we used to buy realtor.com leads. I know some folks still like that, and that might be a component of their business. It just hasn't really worked well for us because the return isn't what we desire, right? And if you own your own leads, you have more power and you have less cost of sale. So that's where we have to go. So that's the majority of it. We were affiliated with a couple of programs. One is through the credit unions, and they were referring folks to us, but there's a cost of sale there. And that kind of grew, not overwhelming, but it grew to a significant little chunk of our business. And that made me nervous because I never want that outside source to be bigger than something we have control over. Because if that source goes away, then what do you do? Right? So we also do events. We have 12 events for 2023.
12 events.
So 4 of them are client events, right? Come to the brewery and have a beer on us and listen to some music, and everybody likes that, right?
Sounds right up Rick's alley.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Guess who thought of that event? Yeah. That kind of event typically we do the summer event, the party in the park with the market center. We typically do that, and people love that event. We do a pie event, which is great. And I know lots of people do that pie event, but here's the cool stuff about it that I would just say, think about it. So first of all, you don't have to guarantee that a certain number of people come. You don't have to fill a room. You got a conference room, you got a whatever, right? You can have a little spot, right? And then they come to you, so you don't have costs of renting a space. You don't have to guarantee people, a certain number of people come. You have a pretty low cost in terms of pies. And what's cool is that people will drive across town to get like a $6 pie. It will seriously drive, So the whole thing is just it's very fun. And the event itself is great. It's awesome. But all the stuff you build out around the event is sometimes more important.
Talk about that.
So you decide you schedule it. We do all of these at the beginning of the year. Here's when these events are going to happen, right? And we talk with team members to make sure who can be at what events. So they're staffed. And then we start with the promotion. And the promotion goes out. There's going to be social media. There's going to be direct email marketing to our database. There's going to be hands-on phone calls from our ISA into the database. And then each one of us has our top 50. So our top 50 really great people, right? Top 50 people that you'd go to lunch with any of those people, right? Not only are they past clients or good referral sources, things like that, but they're people that you feel compelled you want to do things for. And they're just good people. And that allows everyone on the team to have that really close sphere, because you really can't control, or you really can't feed a massive sphere, but you can sort of control that really close group, and you do things for them, either providing them with some great information or taking a handful of them to coffee or lunch or something, or inviting them to an event every single month, right? So we do those calls and reach outs directly to our top 52. So it's a combination of those things. And when people register for the event, they put who they are and, yes, we're coming, and there's 2 people, or I want a pumpkin pie, or I want an apple pie, or whatever. And then they have to answer the question, who do you know that's thinking of buying or selling that we could also invite to the event and give a pie to? And they can't skip the question. So before the event even happens, we have leads from the responses. And then we can, at our meeting, for example, our team meeting, we can say, okay, we go through the list of people. And I think the last time it was like 9 or 10, way before the event even happened. And then we could push those back out to whoever sphere they were in, go ahead and contact that person and talk to them about that lead. Talk to them about that person, say, hey, how do I get that other person invited? Do I have permission to contact them, etc. Right. So that's kind of the power of it. Then when it happens, there's a lot of photos, a lot of video, a lot of social media after promotion.
How many of you guys do events? Yeah. So, just right, I have an event a month from today, right? That right there, very simple. even if you got 0 leads out of it, you're asking the question. And you're putting, you're giving them the opportunity to think about, right? Like that's one action item again, work the drive here, I could implement this week for our event. And how do you do that? Is it like a Google form? Because obviously you can't do that on an Eventbrite, but basically they sign up via Google form.
It's a Google form. And I don't know how to do
Nor should you, yeah,
it. Or should I?
nor do I.
Someone smarter than me knows how to do it. But that was kind of an aha that came out so we would do an event. And then we would debrief from the event and we'd have some ahas and then we'd all share ideas. And so a lot of things have come out of it. And each time we do the same kind of event, we get a little bit better.
Mhm.
So a little bit, right? So we do 4 client events. We do, so we do 4 client events. We do 4 public events. So like a home show, we just did a home show. We had the, we do respinning wheel and enter to win the TV and, and then there's a bunch of stuff there that they can have.
To attract avid events.
Yep, just to attract people that we haven't had a chance to have a conversation with. They don't know who we are. And you ideally want to put the people in that booth, in that public setting, who are high eye on the disc, right? Because they feel like they're having a party at someone else's house, but they love it, right? So it's a perfect fit and they're going to connect really well. Like you might not want to put someone in there who really hates open houses, right? But somebody who really loves open houses, for example, they might do really well. And the trick is then to certainly, like everything, have a purpose going in. Have a goal. How many contacts do we want to, how many do we want to collect information from? How many solid leads do we want from this? Let's have an objective. Ask one more question. What are some great questions, and script that and practice that before they head into that event, right?
And what's the strategy to get their contact info? Is it a drawing
Well,
or?
there's
Is
a
it,
drawing. So we gave away a TV at the last one.
okay,
And then Cutco night. And so we pushed out ahead of time to our people and on social media, I think as well, that if they came and they said, I love the Bandimere team, they could get entered into the Cutco. So anybody could enter into the TV, but you had to say, I love the Bandimere team to get into the Cutco. Or if you spun the wheel and you landed on that, you got to get entered into that. And then we had some little giveaways too. So you spin the wheel, you might get a coffee cup with some goodies in it. You might
Sure.
get, we have a restaurant that gave us a scannable QR code for a free appetizer.
oh, nice.
So we gave that as well.
Okay, so home show, what else? Do you do the car show? Did you guys used to do car show?
I think Rick used to do a car show, but we haven't done one of those for years.
Mhm.
But we have an estate planning seminar or event that's on Saturday. So we push that out. Again, social media, it's direct email to our database. And then everybody's texting like mad. I have 70 more texts to send out by the end of today.
Better get on it. Let's do it.
Yep. And so all of that, those efforts to get people to come to that, and that is partnered with an estate attorney that we've worked with, and he's referred to us and we've referred to him, great guy. And so it's an educational event, something of value to bring to our people, right? And the message had to be crafted in why is this important to you? I think people don't really think of that, or if they're younger, they don't think about that, right? And so we kind of put these little scenarios. Do you own a cabin with your family? Do you have young children? Do you own a business? Do you have income properties, rental properties? Like all these things you should be planning for. So we have folks come into that. And then we also do some happy hours with our vendors, probably on a quarterly basis.
Mhm.
Because those vendor relationships are really important. And we want to track what kind of business do we send their way. You know, if I think Gene Rivers, I was at a Gene Rivers event, and he's great because he just leans into those hard conversations with people, and I love that about him. And so with respect to vendors, if you find that you've given a vendor, 8 referrals and the year isn't over and they've not given you one, I think it begs the conversation of, hey, Mike, we love working with you and we trust you to such a high degree that, I discovered we gave you 8 referrals this year. And I just want to ask you, what is it that we have not done to earn your business in return?
Great question, Jason. Mr. Bender.
Great question. I don't think there's an easy answer.
So, and that was G Rivers' question. And I thought, wow, I love that because you're not saying, hey, why aren't you giving me a referral? You're saying, I understand that there's probably a reason that you haven't been feeling compelled to give me a referral, even though. So this isn't a two-way street. Perhaps your trust isn't as high in me as mine is in yours, and I want to find out. Now, what I might find out is that your brother's a realtor, which is fine. Well, I can understand how you want to support his business. In light of our relationship and the trust we have in you, do you think you can feel compelled to send one our way a year or 2? And everything else goes his way? I'm totally fine with that. But do you think that would make sense? If not, it might be time to find a new guy.
You love how she stayed in curiosity there. It wasn't judgmental. It was just very matter of fact, and we're just asking for one.
Because one might lead to 2, and maybe his brother won't be in the business in 2 years either, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen. And he may refer one to his brother, and maybe he didn't do a very good job. And you did.
Yeah, so everyone, whether it's right now or later today, write down all your vendors, how many referrals you think you've given them, and figure out what you've got in return, and just have that simple conversation. Home warranty, stager, title, mortgage,
Plumber.
inspector, plumber, divorce attorney, electrician. Very simple. I'm willing to bet if we all had that conversation, we'd all do at least 2 more deals this year.
And just even a handful, like just a few more from someone who already knows you and really trusts you. It's just like your sphere, right? I mean, those people are really part of your sphere, right? Because you go, oh, I need an electrician. Well, he's the guy. He just did. And so to create sort of that, like if you live in a very small town, if any of you grew up in a small town or lived in a small town, you know that this is the person you call for this, this is the person you call for that, and everybody knows everybody and everybody trusts everybody. And that's just kind of how it is. Well, building that community of vendors, I think, can be really powerful. So
I'm making my list. All right, and we're about halfway through, just FYI, a little over halfway. Are there any questions online, Ashley? Do you guys have questions? Let's just take a pause here and ask questions.
How does the scripting go around, basically saying you need to give us the name of somebody who's looking to, buy or sell in order to qualify for your giveaway?
we don't make that a requirement of being in the giveaway. Maybe I wasn't clear.
Like picking up the pie?
You
But
need another entry, right? Is that it?
well, they could certainly enter somebody else. So that might be a question is, hey, do you know anybody who might be thinking of buying or selling? And it's on that sheet. Who do you know that's thinking of buying or selling? Or the sheet might have check boxes that say, I am interested in learning more about passive income. Estate planning, a second home with, somewhere without snow, right? Like, so all those kinds of things might be there. And so the people who check those boxes, they get put over here in this stack that we're for sure gonna be much more invested in following up quicker, right? As quick as possible. So we kind of put those low pressure, no pressure obligation opportunities for people to raise their hand a little bit. And then we can just have that conversation. I mean, again, mastering that art of just getting into conversation with people so that they drop their defenses a bit and want to talk to you, want to ask you questions, because everybody loves real estate. Everybody loves it. Everybody thinks it's cool. Everybody, thinks they've heard this, they've heard that, and they want to talk about everything all at once, And most of the time, the consumer knows this much.
Right.
They're fed this much from Zillow and the media and all that kind of stuff, and they're afraid to come to us as professionals because they're afraid that as soon as they get within arm's length, I'm gonna put them in a headlock. And that's not gonna happen. So we want to be that resource without feeling that we're delivering any pressure. If a past client calls me and says, I want to remodel my kitchen, who do you know? I like that call every single day. I don't care. I want to connect them with somebody I know. I did a fantastic job. I have the opportunity to now get back in touch with that person and talk to them. Next thing you know, they know somebody who's a coworker who wants to buy a home. Perfect. I just want to build more and more trust.
Thank you for asking the question. So my favorite lead gen lever this year has been branded Starbucks cards with my brand on them. There's a $5 copy for you for asking for the question. Thank you, sir. It's the only one I got, so if you ask me a question, sorry, you were first. Other questions?
So as the market has shifted, what have you and your team done differently, or has your focus changed at all with the shifting market?
Well, we are 72 sold certified. So we are doing our listings using the 72 sold program. And it has given us some great results so far this year. We just sort of launched beginning of the year. I love the program. I love working the program. I know not everybody is familiar with it or involved in it, but that isn't something we've changed. And that's been a bit of a driver for us. We're having conversations with sellers. I'm telling them that we can't look backwards 4 months. Like, I don't care if your neighbors sold their house over here for this 4 months ago. Today, it doesn't matter as much as the guy who just put his house on the market in the next neighborhood over. We need to be in competition with that guy. And every buyer that walks through your house today will have seen your competition. They don't know about the other guy. So that's who we're competing with, right? Also too, this isn't just really from the current market, but something that changed the way that I view things, changed my perspective, changed the way that I interact with clients is just, asking questions, more questions, like Perry said, curiosity, right? Asking people, for example, people say, well, I want acreage. I want to buy a house, I want acreage. Well, years ago, I'd go, okay, I'm setting up that search for acreage and here we go, right? And today, our team members will say, cool, tell me more about that. Oh, blah, 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 right? Okay. I live in Minneapolis and I can touch my neighbor's house and I need some more privacy. Okay, great. So how far do you want your commute to be because you work in Plymouth? 20 minutes. Maybe not then, right? And your budget. So well and septic, that's cool. I don't want a septic. I absolutely don't want that. I absolutely want city water. Okay, well now we're going to dig even deeper. So, tell me a little bit more about that. What does acreage mean to you? Well, I want a big backyard. Well, maybe a big backyard is a half acre. Maybe a big backyard for them is a 1/4 acre with woods in it, right? So the more discovery, the better. Also, asking questions from the standpoint of understanding that many times negotiation isn't just with the other agent, it may be with my own client. And that people behave in ways that they wouldn't behave normally when they're under stress. So, seller yells at an agent, why isn't my house sold? And the agent thinks, well, it's because you priced it too high, because you wouldn't, you wouldn't price it right, and it's too high, and now nobody wants to buy it. That's what they're thinking. But you have to turn that back around on yourself if you're the agent and say, did I knowingly take an overpriced listing? Because had I had a hard conversation with that seller, I may not have got the listing, but if I can't sell the listing, who cares? Right? I mean, maybe you get some leads off it, right? I know that, but at the end of the day, the idea is, why don't I sell that listing and I sell it quickly and I sell it for more money? And now everything is better. All the talk tracks and scripting that I have with future sellers, I can talk about that, right? Those are successes, those are wins. That's a referral from that seller in the future potentially. So all of those things, I hear agents say, I've shown these buyers, 100 homes and they just can't make up their mind. And, I'm tired of showing them houses. How much time did you spend up front on a buyer consultation? How many questions did you ask? And then when they told you that 3 bedrooms was non-negotiable, and then they said, can we look at this house? Can we look at this house?
Right.
Because there's no inventory and they have 2 bedrooms. Did you run out and show them those houses, or did you go back to them and say, so when we discussed this before, you told me that it was absolutely necessary to have 3 bedrooms, and just help me understand, has that changed? And they're gonna say no. Okay, well then we're not gonna waste your emotional energy on this. That just really doesn't make sense. And I know you're frustrated, and I know there's not a lot of homes in the market right now, but let's hang in there, right? So asking those questions, having what maybe seem like difficult conversations, setting them up with expectations is also a big thing, whether they're a seller or a buyer. And learning to do those things has made my job a little bit easier. It's always hard sometimes, but
Couple of key points here. We can't look backwards 4 to 6 months. That's a great thing to tell your folks. We're in competition with the actives. That's a great dialogue. I've begun to take sellers on tours as buyers, not as buyers, but to go through the other actives in the neighborhoods before we pick pricing. So those are 2 key points. This is not we're not going to go down a 72 sold rabbit hole all day, but do we have folks in this market center involved? No? Okay, so question for you, and it's more for me, I guess, and I'll be selfish because I'm sitting here taking a ton of notes. So every listing appointment you go on, are you giving the 72 sold plan, or is it just the ones that inquire? Because we have agents in Edina now, all they're doing is 72 sold as their listing program.
it works better results for us, shorter market time, more money. I'm all in, and that's how we do our listing. And so the folks that are on my team who do listings, that's how they do the listings as well. The power in that for us too was that it's, you can reproduce it. So if you spent years in the business and you listed homes and sold homes and been successful just because of how you did it, you can't teach somebody else to just be you. Like, I can't teach somebody else to be Rick, right? Or to be me. So to have a system in place that we could say, here's how you do it. And if you don't do it this way, you're not going to get the same results. It's an easier way to train people and set them up for success. And there's less, variance, I guess.
Yep. So
So it's a system for us. It's a listing system for us, not just the national, getting leads on a national advertising.
and the sellers are hiring the system. They're not hiring you, and there's a ton of freedom in that.
And even it's, with our database, people that like us already or know us, and we go in for the listing appointment, and then I explain, here's how it works, and here's how it's different, and here's how it works, and here's how we do it. And they go, I like that. Okay, let's do it.
Every single seller you meet with says that makes a lot of sense.
They do. They do. Or they say, well, how come that's not exactly how it's been done before? I'll say, I'm sorry, that's not the way I did it when I listed your house last time.
Mhm.
You know, but again, it's not for everybody, right? And there are lots of different programs, there are lots of different approaches and a lot of different lead sources. And so you have to find what works for your business, but that, you know, for us, just in this, you know, we just really launched it heavily in the beginning of the year, and so far, very different for us.
So, and that came from the question about the market. So, if I said, hey, how's the market? Or anything else you want to share market related, that you're sharing with buyers and sellers right now?
Right now. Well, we've been talking to people about the fact that the last couple of years have been very different. So it's almost felt in an extreme, it's been like 12 different markets in a year, right? Rates change so quickly, inventory's low, then there's a spike, then people fall off. I mean, you know, it's been so up and down that you really need to keep your finger on the pulse is kind of the thing. Make sure that we're giving people good information and make sure that we tap into their motivation. Because no matter what the market's doing, the right motivated buyer or seller will act. And many times that decision to act is emotional, not a thoroughly logical decision-making process. It's a gut feeling that makes them do it, right? I mean, my first house was 8.5%. I didn't care. We just had a baby. I needed a house. I didn't care.
Right.
Does that help a little bit? Okay.
Questions? So we got anything online? All right, so we were talking about levers, so referrals, database events, 72 sold now. Anything else? Lead gen levers?
We do social media. We have Facebook ads
Yep.
that we get in our ISA. And so, our ISA gone back through old leads too. Like I said, we used to buy, you know, realtor.com leads and Tiger leads, remember Tiger leads?
Mhm.
So we used to have those, and we keep everybody in our database until they say, quit talking to me, quit emailing me, remove me.
And what are you using?
Well, we made the switch to follow-up boss.
Okay.
It does a lot of things that we really needed,
Sure.
right? But we still have everything in command too. I mean, you still need to utilize command and Facebook ads. I think go through command and that kind of thing, but follow-up bots allowed us to do some customization that we
Sweet.
that works for us. So that's it. We're really probably going to be replacing the credit union program at this point. Referral fees are going up. Been some changes. Bought out by a brokerage, which probably means at some point you need to be in that brokerage to get those leads anyway. But we don't care. So we're looking to replace that through growing vendor relationships. That's kind of the lever for that.
Awesome.
It's not rocket science, right? Like that's the whole thing is we make it harder than it needs to be. And, you know, like 4 days out of 5 in a work week, I got to remind myself to get out of my own way. Like it just, we don't like to do the things that we should be doing. We don't like to do the things that are boring. We don't like to do the things that are repetitive. And yet, if I text those remaining 70 people today, I'm going to get some people at that event. And then those people at that event are going to be there having prolonged conversations. They're at an estate planning event. They have real estate. They need to know, and they're either looking for something that they think is going to occur immediately or in the near future that they need to be prepared for.
What I love about all of this is, you know, we're doing 90 units, 31,831,000 gross commissions. You're just following the models. Those of you guys who know me and know me forever, like being a MREA models nerd, that is so refreshing. Every one of you can do this.
And you know what? So we were in MAPS executive coaching, right, for several years. Amazing, right? Amazing. Brought us to different levels, you know, made us really look at our P&L that we had kind of, but then really had to get focused. Made us, you know, explore different things. Like, for example, this is maybe speaking to teams, but our coach said to us, what if your salaried employees could bring in enough business through whatever activities to offset their salary? Like they were free. That's pretty huge. You know, if you could take just even a few nuggets, that's huge when you're a team and when you're trying to build and you hire and you're thinking about salaries and all that kind of stuff and really great talent, because really great talent is going to command more money. And that was a huge, huge aha. So we look at those things, like how do we incentivize our people to bring more business into the team, which benefits us and offsets their salary.
How do you do it?
Well, actually, our operations people all have their own goals. And they refer into the team, and when they refer into the team, a buyer or a seller, they get 25%. And they don't have to touch it. They're just done. All they did was originate, right? And so what are those systems? Well, they have their top 50 that they get to invite to all the events. Their people get everything that everyone in our database gets, all the same opportunities, plus they can kind of perk them if they want. Right. So somebody raises their hand just because they added them to our database, and a friend of their cousin raises their hand, they get 25% and we run with it. So it's in some cases very hands-off for them, but that value proposition means more money for us and an offset there. So, you know.
Love it. So you've been around a long time. What's the biggest mistake you've made? I can say that because we've been around the same one. What's the biggest mistake you don't want others to repeat? Share some, you got anything juicy? You wanna share?
I think everybody's bought a water heater or a washer or something, right? Or a
Sure.
fridge, because they didn't include it. Everybody's done that. I don't have anything that's just, glaring like, super painful. I will tell you, I've had some really excruciating client experiences, and some potentially unsafe experiences. And I don't want to say that maybe that's because I'm a woman, but it's out there. And we talk about safety, and yet we just, we're so eager to just go meet people we've never met before, right? And so there have been a couple of instances where I've been like, this doesn't seem very normal to me, and when I would do open houses and back in the day on the bank owns and be empty, I would bring an extra chair and my husband's jacket and an extra pad folio and Rick's business cards. Somebody came in and I got a weird vibe. I'd be like, oh, I thought you were my business partner. He just went next door to talk to the neighbor. Somebody's come. Or I'd show a house. They called off of realtor.com and they wanted to see one of our bank owns. And I was going to show them that. I'd be like, oh, before we go in, I just want to make sure, before I forget, our contractor is going to come here and meet me here. This is the only time he could come. So if this big guy comes in the door, I don't want you to be alarmed. He's never coming, right? Then we get done with the showing and they're nice people and I go, darn, I'm gonna have to call, But some of those instances, I've had excruciating people that were really quite awful. And to keep your mindset right about the fact that you've committed to serving those people, you're in the midst of the transaction and yet you have fiduciary duties to them, whether you dislike them immensely or not. There's a difference between abuse, right? And just sucking it up.
Yeah, I've asked myself, what's my ownership in their behavior and what could I have done differently on the front end so we weren't in this situation?
Right. And sometimes you're just gonna have those people. I don't know that this is, by mistake, but just, watching your expenses and then being mindful of your projection 90 days out, right? Yeah, everything feels great. Holy cow, we're busy. And then all of a sudden you look and you go, ooh, we don't kick it in the rear. We are not going to be as busy as we want to be for long. tendency to go like, oh, here you won this accolade, or oh, here you achieved this, or you achieved that. And the reality is that, you're never done in this business. You have to be okay with that.
I have a post-it note by my computer in my office that says, never sacrifice tomorrow's business by only working on today's. Because we get so busy, we don't regenerate, and they're like, holy shnikes, we're, we have 0 pendings or whatever,
I heard Jason Abrams say, and I wrote it on a post-it note and I stuck it to my monitor, and it said, what have I done today to make the consumer smarter about real estate? I thought that was interesting and speaks to what's our role.
What's your answer?
Cutting through the crap mostly for them. Like, oh, you heard this, you heard that. Well, that's a national statistic. We are not the coast. We are not a second home market, right? So you lump all that stuff together, real estate is hyper local. And if you want someone who has expertise where you live, that's us.
Love it. Any final thoughts, advice, closing remarks, anything at all you want to share as we close?
I'm going to be 20 years in the business, which I so can't believe soon. And there's so much I don't know. And there's so much I need to learn. And I love, just like you said, you get a nugget. You go to something and you walk away with one thing, powerful. And a couple of magical things I think about this business, not to get too dramatic. I had a flare for drama. So a couple of things are, first of all, just speaking as a woman, there's no glass ceiling here. I don't have to be a certain way or do things a certain way or be somebody else to succeed. And I love that about this business, right? And you're going to wake up one morning and you're going to go, I feel pretty darn good. I took 2 listings and I set 4 appointments and I just, right? Everything's moving and shaking. And then 2 days later, you're going to go, I'm a failure, right? Because something went wrong, it's a difficult client and a deal is falling apart and all that kind of stuff. You got a listing that's not selling, like all those things. So it's almost like a golf game. I hate this game. I hate this game. I hate this game. Nice shot. Want to play tomorrow? Like it's sort of that. And I think it's magical because it can change and because your potential is not limited.
You just got to practice your swing every day.
I just learned to golf last year. So that's fun.
Awesome. All right. Does everyone have one action item? Bunch of yeses. Okay, if that's the case, we did our job today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause. People can trip. I have a ton of notes, so I don't care what you guys got. I have 6 pages of notes, so good job.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
But outside.
We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thanks for the coffee, Barry.
No, you bet.
I know.
Really?
Oh, yeah. No,
Okay.
yeah, we've never. You're a fabulous.
I'm just showing you later.
Out about all the people that are, whoever's out there, they can't see.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're a fabulous speaker.
Oh,
I appreciate it.
The people in the camera.
Yeah.
What? Go to the.
How awkward do I?
All part of the fun, right?
I got my first time I was on, like, even Zoom calls, it's like I use the public speak all the time in front of lots of people.
But they're looking at you and you can.
Yeah, all of a sudden I've got this little camera about that big on the top of my screen. I'm just like,
You do.
I gotta run. You're on my list.
And then they don't, and
Should I call you in from the vehicle?
I got
like a thumbnail.
wondering
You had an event coming up.
a month from today.
Yeah.
what are they doing right now?